following announcement has been paid for by the
Hey, this is JayV with the Elite Mark Order. I am here with Krillin and Cosmic Scott, and tonight we are going to review AEW Revolution 2023 from the Chase Center in San Francisco. So, who wants to kick this discussion off?
That would be me, 'cause I've had this in my head for like maybe an hour now. So, we wanted to kick off with the main event, the biggest match of the entire show, the 60-minute Iron Man match between MJF and Bryan Danielson. Now, it goes without saying that honestly, this was a king-making match for MJF because this was his longest match in his entire career, and it's against one of the greatest wrestlers to ever walk the face of the earth, and he got a lot of good shit. He did technical stuff, he did high-flying stuff, he did his basic heel shit, he did every damn thing he possibly could in that match in his 60 minutes. And I already had the feeling they were going to go into sudden death, and they did. I just didn't know what score it was going to be, so...
It was a little slower paced, but I think that was, again, intentional. Because it started off a little slower, they started working the psychology, because Danielson loves doing that, because he's a master of it. And so they started slow, they started working on body parts, and then as it started to get into the half-hour mark, into the 45-minute mark, you really saw it pick up in the pace and the intensity. And then, of course, the last 15 minutes with the overage was when everything kicked into gear. All the stories started to combine. And quite honestly, it was a masterpiece of a match.
It was.
MJF proved that he can wrestle at the level of the greatest of them all, period.
Yeah, and despite what a lot of fans are going, oh, it was too long. Oh, man, shut up. Seriously, if we complain about everything being too long, then a lot of you guys wouldn't be able to do anything, unfortunately. But that match was fantastic. It had to be too long. It had to go into sudden death to prove that MJF is one of the best wrestlers of the modern era. You can't just turn around and just, make a younger wrestler like him, go over in like 5 minutes. That's stupid. Or like, oh yeah, hey, the whole match ends immediately as soon as the time ends. That's done. No.
They've done that twice, though. They've done that twice. They did, and who is the one person that has now done 3 matches that have gone an hour each?
Bryan Danielson.
And how fucking good have every single one of his matches been since ever, but since he joined AEW? Every single one.
Phenomenal and fantastic.
I thought when he beat when he lost to Hangman, that was Hangman's Kingmaker. It wasn't quite there yet for Hangman. He's still got a couple of things before he can get there. But holy hell, MJF has every tool. They're all sharpened to the maximum. And I'm going to tell you, he said it in the press conference, he's 27, and he's already one of the greatest.
Exactly.
I don't know where he goes from here except up. And Jay.
So I got to say it was the best Iron match I've ever seen, bar none, not even close. I think back to like the Ricky Steamboat versus Rick Rude match back in '92. The Shawn Michaels Bret Hart match I was never a fan of with the screw job. I thought that match was just 45 minutes of rest holds.
Yep.
And this match was anything but. I mean, they started slow. The first 15, 20 minutes, there was a lot of good psychology stuff going on, but it wasn't constant action or near falls, which is fine, for a match like this.
And that's Danielson influence right there.
Yeah,
right.
Pacing.
But overall, go ahead.
I was just going to say pacing. That was it.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, greatest Iron Man match ever. Here, like you guys said, here's MJF. Yeah, when I first heard, I'm like, how is MJF going to keep up with Bryan? Are they going to be able to make this entertaining? And the answer was a resounding yes. MJF exceeded expectations again, far exceeded them. When I woke up this morning and checked the cage match rating, because that's the first thing I do every day is check the cage match ratings when I wake up.
As well, you should.
The match was rated like 5th all time in the list, and I was like, "Oh, that's too high." I mean, I was like almost tempted to sign on and bump the score down a little bit because I'm like, this isn't in the territory of like Omega Okada, but It is though. It is in that territory. It's come down since then, and it'll come down a little further, just because it's really not on the level of some of those upper tier matches, but it's definitely, you could argue that was a top 10 match of all time. For me, I'd have to say it was possibly a top 20 all time match that I've seen. It was that damn good.
There are some people who might say that it's not as good, this, that, or the other thing.
Exactly.
But when you look at AEW in its own bubble, it's
one of the best matches there.
It's certainly top 10 AEW, if not top 5. And I will say that once again, MJF is involved in one of the best promos, one of the best segments, one of the best matches, one of the best builds. He's proving time and again he is a generational talent. He truly is. But at the same time, who's next?
Yeah, exactly.
Who can reach his level?
But let's also cover something, too, that happened during the match, and this is currently a hot topic between the internet wrestling community at the moment. The spot where MJF throws water, or what everyone is now saying was either tequila or vodka, in the little kid's face about 5 minutes into the match. Now, I know a lot of people are divided on this because a lot of them are like, well, it's a plant, it's not a plant. If it's a plant, then it works because it adds more to MJF's character. People are going to hate the guy that threw a fucking drink in a little kid's face. Because you don't do that. Nobody goes after little kids. That's always been like one of the biggest things. You don't go after little kids.
Well,
but at the same time, too, it adds more to him.
Here's the thing. The whole thing about the interaction with the kid, I definitely want to talk about this. Grabbing signs out of kids' hands and ripping it up is classic heel tactic. Does it make kids cry? Yes. But here's why it wasn't a work. Here's why it absolutely wasn't a plant. Jay posted the picture of him going backstage. That kid got treated like a goddamned king. Amanda Huber came out. And that is the head of their, basically the PR department, if you want to call it that. That is their public-facing side. So she immediately recognized that this needed to be fixed fast. So kid got backstage. Kid got to meet his favorite Will Hobbs. Kid got free tickets to the next show. Kid got a bunch of bunch of merchandise for free from people who just immediately responded. Yeah, the foam finger and all that.
The kid has already been booked to fight -1 on Dark next week.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got himself a manager. Vicky Guerrero's going to come out with him. He's going to come. But the fact is, he got treated like a goddamn king because everybody realized that MJF stepped over the line. Now,
but the question is, what happens to MJF now? I mean, what are they going to do to him since he did that?
Nothing.
Exactly. You can't do anything to your world champion.
Nothing should happen.
And nothing's going to. I mean,
it should have just been water, first of all, and that's not that big a deal. But
it just looking at that, at the smile on that kid's face and that woman there, the only people that are mad are the fake outrage losers on Twitter that have nothing else to do with their time. So they can go fuck themselves. And this kid's gonna love the attention that he's getting, and nothing's gonna happen to MGF because he didn't get anything. He didn't do anything wrong. He might get a slap on the wrist and say, "Dude, don't throw stuff on kids." But that's going to be the end of it. It's not. There's not going to be a suspension or
fine.
The fake outrage mob on Twitter will find something else to bitch about.
Here's the thing,
and everything will move on.
Grabbing somebody's sign is totally different than throwing water in your face. MJF was simply walking a very thin line. And he went overboard because if that was an adult, nobody would have said shit. But it was a kid.
It wouldn't.
And now you got all the virtue signalers. You got everybody who's like, oh, I'm outraged on his behalf. Look, the kid's fine.
People do realize that back then in the 90s, Doink the Clown popped the fucking little kid's balloon, right? That was only part of his character.
I mean, there are three of us in here who probably watched that.
Yeah,
we're not children. Yeah, which Doink exactly?
Was it Art Barr or was it Matt Bourne? Was it?
I mean, if he's popping a balloon, it had to have been Matt Bourne. I mean, Matt Bourne. That was Evil Doink.
Evil Doink. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Pops kid balloon.
All right. So while you're looking it up, the whole thing about being outraged on the kid's behalf is the bullshit. The kid is fine. If it was water, yes, people would have responded just as negatively. If it's alcohol, what the hell did the mom think putting alcohol in a water bottle, sneaking a toke while she? I mean, come on. Let's not get
face of your kid at the damn pay-per-view.
Let's not get our panties in a wad over this. The fact is, it created controversy, and as Eric Bischoff has always pledged, controversy
creates cash.
Exactly.
Yep.
MJF got himself in the headlines again. Then he went backstage, did his media scrum, and made fun of Punk, and got himself in the headlines again. The dude is a headline maker everywhere he goes.
He's a genius.
He really is.
I've been saying, he's the best mind I think I've ever seen in the business from a talker standpoint. He's just incredibly brilliant. I mean, even when he's in a program that hasn't been booked that great, he's gonna take it and turn it into something entertaining and outstanding. I mean, it's just what he does. He's just that good.
He will spin shit into gold.
Yes,
exactly.
And he's done it over and over.
I found an article right here. It says that Doink the Clown, Matt Bourne's Doink, would pop little kids' balloons with a lit cigar.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, but was anybody upset about that back then?
But the difference is taking a sign or popping a balloon versus throwing water in your face. It is different.
Yeah.
Just a quick shout out to two elite marks that are in the audience right now. Hey Scott, what's going on? Hey Rock, what's going on? Good to see you guys here.
All right.
And there's a chat in the Discord room. Yeah, looks like everyone knows where it is now. Awesome.
All right. So which match are we going to cover next? The one that was on 0 Hour, or do we want to start off with Jericho versus Starks?
Let's start with 0 Hour. I think we have something to say about that.
Yeah.
Jay, what do you think about it? It was a pre-show. As I called it before the show started, I called it the Slot of Honor. Used to be the Eddie Kingston spot where you would fight a Japanese legend. Now we have Mark Briscoe building his AEW intro with two of his bros, the Lucha Bros. Where'd Pac go? Against three jobbers, so you knew who was going to win, and it was a great, fun little match. What did you think, Jay?
Well, I was expecting, Eddie Kingston. I was expecting this match to be booked with Eddie Kingston, and I thought this might be because he's starting to lose it a little bit. He said he was leaving AEW. What I was hoping was that he might come out with the kitten in the pre-show.
I think that's going to be an ROH. I don't think we're going to see it on an AEW show at this point.
And I thought that kitten was going to be his key to challenging MJF and defeating MJF for the AEW title. But apparently that's on hold because he's going to be focusing on winning the ROH title.
Maybe 2024.
So, I had absolutely zero interest in this match going in. I thought it was going to be a squash, and it wasn't. It was actually the fourth best rated match on the show at a 7.0. It was a damn good match. For the first time, they let Tony Nese show what he could do in the ring. They let him do his 450. They let him get his shit in. They let I can't speak to how much Ari Daivari got in. But Josh Woods did his thing. It was a good, competitive, entertaining match, and hitting a 7, like it's actually like a little higher than the Christian versus Jack Perry match. So I was good with it. I don't know that this is going anywhere. And if it is, I feel bad for the Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe that they have to be in a program with these guys and the lawyer Mark Sterling. But yeah, it was fine. It was a good way. The crowd was into it. It was a good hype match to get the show started.
Josh Woods and Mark Briscoe work well together. They're former ROH talent. They know each other well. They've wrestled each other plenty. I think, and Tony Nese, I think, might be former ROH. It really gave them the opportunity to show that they're more than just jokes. And I think that the team of Nese and Woods against Briscoe and somebody else could be the key to getting them actually believable and getting them over. Because Mark is going to elevate them. because he's got the crowd behind him, so it's going to feel better, more important, more energized. He's going to get the audience just rocking and rolling so that when the heels do their heel shtick, they get the boos instead of just silence like the Guns. So that's really, I think that this elevated them a little bit. I think this rose the stock of Nice and the other guys because they were in a match with the Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe. And I don't think that was a bad thing. And for Mark, again, like I was saying in the pre-show before the recording, he's building his intro into the company. He's building that connection with the audience. I think 2023, he's going to be huge in AEW. I really do.
What do you think, Krill?
Well, I am not a fan of Ari Daivari and Tony Nese. Ari Daivari is another wrestler that's doing the whole rich guy gimmick, except now he's got like an entire faction instead of like, one man like Ted DiBiase, Tiger, Ali Singh, and other wrestlers have done before. But I mean, yeah, I'm in agreement. It was a good match. I need to see a lot more Josh Woods and Tony Nese and Ari Daivari before I become fans of them. But in my mind, I feel like it's a step down for Lucha Brothers because around this time last year, I do believe that they were in a Battle Royal. Let me look that one up. Let's see. So, AEW Revolution 22. But it feels like a step down because, they had that great, fantastic steel cage match in 2021 at All Out with the Young Bucks, and then now they're on the pre-show. And the Guns were actually on the show. I think that's the worst part for me, is that the Guns are on the show. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal are on the show. And now
don't talk bad about JJ.
Right, he'll show up and smash a guitar over my head.
Hey, don't
and then give you the stroke.
He's got all the stroke around here. Don't talk about Jeff Jarrett.
I can agree. I think it's a good idea in order to get Mark Briscoe more integrated with the fans by having him start out in all these little areas instead of like shoving him on TV, thrusting him on TV. Because how many times have we seen guys that have been brought into AEW and they've been thrusted immediately onto TV and they just flop?
Well, he's been on TV a couple of times. Obviously, there was his the memorial match, and then there was this, that, and the other thing. So he's made a little creeper here and there to get on the show, but as far as being a star and building up that fan base, I think they're doing it right with him. Like I said, I think this is his year, and we're going to see a hell of a star emerge.
I agree with you, Krill, that it's definitely a huge step down for the Lucha Brothers. I'm glad they were at least on the show. It was good to see them back after their break. There's still no sign of Pac. I'm not sure where Neville is. He probably went back home for a little bit. But the last thing I want to...
Yeah, he's probably healing from his legitimate injury.
Yeah, he may have needed surgery for that because it was obviously one of the worst broken nose. Usually guys don't have to wear masks for 6 months unless you're Scott Steiner. So,
or Brandon Cutler. He's going on 2 years.
So the last thing I want to say about this is I hope Tony Khan, I know he's listening. Tony, I hope that you take note of the response from the crowd and from the cage match community, which I know you pay attention to. And, this was a good match. You let Tony Nese get his shit in. Let your guys get their shit in. And I know there can only be so many 450s in a single show, but, I mean, come on. Just holding these guys back and not letting them do their basic moveset is got to be so frustrating for them. And they put up with it because what choice do they have? But come on, let the guys go. That's what AEW was all about. We wanted to see PWG style more not completely PWG style, but we wanted to see guys with just be unleashed in the ring to put on the best show they can without being restricted by not showing up some 48-year-old guy that happened to be in the main event or whatever. So
here's what I've noticed over the last 3 years of AEW. The people who started off on Dark and Elevation, who didn't get the push like the Acclaim did, spent the first year losing. Not quite Serpentico level, but no chance they were going to win. The second year, like Shawn Dean, got a win here or there. Started to develop a little bit. Still was on Dark and Elevation, but still losing plenty, but started to develop a little bit more character. Now you look at year 3, Shawn Dean is on Dynamite. He's starting to get programs. He's working more backstage. I've actually seen progression from some of these wrestlers as they've gone from Dark and Elevation to occasionally showing up on Dynamite. JD Drake is a great example of the workhorseman. He started off Dark and Elevation. Now he's starting to get on Dynamite with his partner. They're working their way up. I've started to see this with a few other people. Lee Moriarty is another good example. They put him in the firm. They're trying to do things. Now he's tagging with Big Bill. They've actually started to develop some of these newer guys and move them up and percolate through. And I think Briscoe, it's the same thing. They're starting off, let him percolate. Now, he may be percolating a lot faster, but like Ricky Starks started off a lot of losses and Dark at Elevation, and now he's elevating himself up the card, and he's still upper mid-card, lower top tier. He's right there at the edge. So I think they're building Mark Briscoe very well, very quickly, and I think by comparison, Tony Nese finally getting his shit in is because he spent a year jobbing.
Yeah.
And now they're finally moving him up. And we saw it with the Guns. Jobber, finally started to move up. And then because of their dad, they got a title run. But that's the sort of progression that I've actually started to see. And that's what I enjoy almost more than anything, more than stories, etc., is seeing that development. I assume people who like college football like it for the same reason, because then they can see their favorites go into the big leagues.
And speaking of progression and Ricky Starks, let's move on to the Jericho Starks match.
What a segue.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on that one.
So let's talk a little bit about Starks Jericho, because I didn't get to see it. I had issues being able to get my streaming working. So I'm not going to have much to say about it because I literally missed everything from Jericho's entrance until basically mid-Christian match.
All right,
you didn't miss much.
It was a decent match, and I like the fact that Ricky Starks is now the first person to ever officially block the Judas Effect. People have dodged it. People have, hit him with something else, but he actually blocked it with his fucking forearm, and then he beats him. Once again, Chris Jericho putting over another young talent, which people have accused him of holding guys back, because there's usually the long feud, and then nobody really comes out of it looking good. But think about it like this. He's lost to Claudio Castagnoli. In his big matches, he's lost to Claudio. He's lost to Action Andretti. He lost to Ricky Starks twice now. And he got dominated the other night by fucking Peter Avalon, who has been a jobber in AEW for so long. But the only move that he got in was the Judas Effect. Or I think it might have been the Codebreaker. My memory
Codebreaker.
That one. Yeah, Codebreaker. But still, Jericho's putting guys over. And that's something good. We don't need to just keep on having Jericho at the top of the card like how a lot of people are like, well, oh yeah, he's putting over nobody. And my brother brought this up to me a while back. He's like, oh, people are praising Edge for hugging Apollo Crews. I'm like, that's not putting anybody over. Jericho just put over another young star last night. And I think that was like the whole base of the show. A lot of young talent got put over the bigger stars, which is a good thing.
That is true.
What did you think?
You could call it, he's kind of booking for the future here with a lot of the AEW originals, the younger guys starting to be able to stand out on their own. I mean, it's like, I think, a lot of these younger guys, when the promotion first started, people wouldn't be too excited about their matches on the pay-per-view. But now, there's a good handful. You got the four pillars. You got one of them, main eventing the show against Bryan with MJF. But yeah, it's I thought this was good progression for the roster, this whole show. As for Jericho, my notes on the match were pretty short. Blocking the Judas Effect was nice. Krill, I did not realize that was the first time it was ever blocked, which is kind of an interesting fact. And Starks hitting Jericho with the Rochambeau. I wasn't sure if Ricky was going to be able to do it. Ricky's not the strongest guy. So, and one thing that was interesting was, there was that clause that nobody was allowed to interfere. And then they changed that saying that only the Jericho Appreciation Society could not be at ringside. And I was kind of like, well, is somebody else going to come out and give Jericho the win to extend this feud? And I was kind of buying into that, and I actually predicted that in the AEW Games Foreteller contest that Jericho would win this match, and that killed me. That basically ruined my chances of winning it. Not that I wasn't eligible because I was late with picks, but anyhow, yeah. So my questions here are. Oh, one of the things I wanted to point out was when Sammy came running out, I was just like, what the hell? Why would, he can't. Like, it's going to be a DQ? Are they going to end this in DQ? And then Andretti came out. And when Andretti tackled Sammy, I'm like, what if Andretti's going to turn on Starks? Because he could go to ringside and turn on Starks. So I thought something was going to happen. Nothing did. Starks won clean. Jericho's been buried losing to Starks twice and Andretti. And like you guys said, he was weak against Peter Avalon. So where does Jericho go from here, and where does Starks go from here? You got to think Starks could fight Hangman for a number one contender spot, or they'll just each get their opportunities at a different time. So yeah, any thoughts, Scott? Are you glad this feud is over between the Action Andretti, Ricky Starks, and Jericho Appreciation Society?
It's not. First of all, Andretti and Sammy Guevara are going to go at it. So it's not over there. As far as Sammy goes, I don't think he's going to do too much, but if he's still involved with Action Andretti, then he's still involved with the JAS. And this feud continues. So I'm not entirely sure where things are going to go. I'd love to see Sammy move on to a new program. I don't know what. I don't know with whom. Maybe Miro. Where's Miro? Let's put him in a program with Sammy. How about that? Or not Sammy. With Ricky Starks. Shit, put him in with Sammy too. I don't give a fuck. Let's just put Miro up against everybody.
Sammy beat Andretti on Rampage 2 weeks ago. So I'm not sure they're going to fight again. Even though they did tie up, I'm not sure they're going to fight again.
Didn't Ricky already start the feud by beating Jericho? Your logic is irrelevant. There's no.
But also,
what's that?
It honestly made no sense for Ricky to be the one to actually try to get the rematch. Why isn't it Jericho? Because Jericho's the one that lost in the fucking first place.
Right.
No sense.
The entire order, the entire pacing, none of it made any fucking sense. The whole idea is if you're going to build him up, start him off losing against Jericho, getting mobbed by the JAS, work his way through the JAS, then, typical Max, then get his shot at Jericho, beat him, then Jericho demands the rematch, and then he beats him again. That would be the progression people would expect. But we've seen it like 5 times with Max already. You got to get through my goons before you get to me. Bryan Danielson even called him out on it. So I guess they couldn't do that, but it made no sense the way they do it. First he beat Jericho, then he beat the JAS, then he demanded a rematch. Why? Nobody knows. But I'm hoping he's done. I'm hoping he can move on and do something with somebody else. Because Jericho, maybe take a break. The girls have I haven't seen Tay Mello or
Anna Jay is injured. She did reveal that she did suffer a fractured rib, I think, or might have been a bruised rib.
Right. I
spot.
I was gonna say I knew she was out, but Tay's not around. I mean, it would take away if she came out with Sammy because Sammy's doing the thing with Garcia. So JAS is kind of a mess right now. I don't even know what have Menard and Parker ever won anything.
They do nothing aside from just have Menard go, "You want to know what makes my nipples hard?" Or "Let's get a taste." And the other guy just brushes his hair back.
What the hell was that on the pre-show? Anyways, that whole nipples hard thing.
That's his shtick. That's his gimmick, and it's dumb.
God. Yeah.
He is okay as an announcer on Elevation with Paul White. And they do win on Dark and Elevation. That's the only places they win because they're true jobbers. And yeah, you want a taste. You got a taste of things. That's it. That's all he's got. So
Yeah, but also the fact that RJ City actually touched his nipple was just what the fuck.
they were just trying to be comedy. Some people thought it was funny. Who knows?
It was funny, but it was just weird and random. So.
It was cringe is the word you're looking for. It was cringe. And
yeah, definitely cringe. And that RJ City guy, what the fuck? I mean, he's like, who is that guy on the WWE In Your House shows? DeGeorge?
Todd Gill?
DeGeorge?
No.
Oh my god. I think Craig DeGeorge is the guy I'm thinking of. That RJ City reminds me of him. Just awful. I mean, what is this? A fucking Nick at Night show? I mean, come on.
He's humor, and he's got a particular style. And okay, fine, cool. They want to run with it. He does the Hey You or whatever however you pronounce it.
The Hey W show.
I tried watching it. He doesn't appeal to me.
I had never heard of this guy until I saw him yesterday. I'm like, who the fuck is this clown and why is he on AEW? You know, I thought we were going to be like, you know, a more serious promotion, a sports-based promotion like UFC. Does UFC have a fucking... well, wait, there's Joe Rogan. He's a comedian.
He literally was a comedian. He wasn't funny, but he was a comedian.
I just set myself up for that.
You did.
But, like, they don't have some fucking guy that looks like he should be on Nickelodeon making stupid nipple-touching jokes to the UFC fighters before this show. Let's step it up and make it more serious. And that's...
Fortunately, they weren't on the show.
Right. It's only a matter of time, though, right?
That is where the network and, you know, the sponsors start coming in. Where they start going, hey, this is too violent. Hey, you're doing this. Hey, you're doing that. Like, you know, they used to be able to curse now. Now they have to bleep it because network's like, well, we don't like that. It's supposed to be different. Not the same damn thing as the other fucking company down in Stamford. Don't make it like WWE. That's when AEW loses its appeal, when it becomes just like the, you know, the main company.
The overproduced, super professional, we are broadcast journalists. You know what? Sometimes I do prefer a little bit of goofy wrestling for life. Thank you, Simon Miller. And RJ is goofy.
So speaking of not being like WWE, up next we have for another great segue here. Up next we have a casket match with Christian.
It's not a casket match. It's not a casket match.
It's final burial.
It's the final burial because you can't call it buried alive.
Yeah, because they will sue them.
And they've already had a coffin match. That's Darby Allin's. So they couldn't do that.
Love the coffin matches with Darby. Those are fucking great.
Yeah.
They are.
This was not.
It was okay. I mean, it was exactly what I expected from Jungle Boy and Christian. Finally ending this goddamn feud. Didn't we just say that about something earlier? The
9
problem,
months.
yeah. And Christian's injury did not help this because then Jungle Boy was in a holding pattern, much like Jade Cargill and Chris Statlander. So I'm glad it's done. It's over with, and yay. You know, they had some good spots. They did almost everything up on the stage by the actual coffin.
Right.
Darby Allin wasn't on the show last night, but there still was a coffin drop, so we can say that.
Oh, that was a good pun. Where'd you get that? You didn't think of that.
No, I actually did think of that. I did not see anybody say that. I was like, you know what? That actually sounds funny.
That's a pretty good one.
We did see the coffin drop, but it wasn't even Darby Allin, so...
No, you nailed it.
It was random. It just came out of nowhere, like, as soon as he shuts the lid. Boom.
Write that one down. It's gold.
So have you guys seen
that one out.
Have you guys seen any chatter on Christian's status? Like, I thought I saw some people saying, like, he might be done with AEW now and he might be doing something else. Have you guys seen any of that?
I have not.
Okay.
First and foremost, if his contract was up, it would be extended because of his injury. So he can't be going anywhere. He just got back from being injured for a bunch of time.
Well, it depends if his contract was going to expire, like, you know, a month before he got hurt.
Then they extend it out, exactly like they did Kenny Omega, exactly like they did Jeff Hardy in WWE, exactly like they do everybody, because that's how these contracts work.
Well, if you get hurt and you only have a month left on your deal, they're not going to keep you for another 6 months. And that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, you know, WWE's done dumber stuff.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm fine with Christian leaving. AEW. I did not mind him so much. I hated him going over Kenny Omega, but Winnipeg boys, Kenny did Christian a favor.
It was for the
Extend his
Impact
career.
title. It so didn't count.
Right.
Yeah, nobody cares about the
And
Impact title, honestly.
and I was kind of okay, with it back then, and then but like him going heel just didn't work for me. The whole thing didn't make any sense. I'm mad at Jungle Boy because he threw me out of a battle royal a year ago. Like, come on, guys.
The storyline is the most contrived. The heel heat that Christian's generated has been the cheapest of heel heat. Your mama jokes, your dead daddy jokes. I mean,
Yep.
come on. So I don't know that this has really elevated Christian. I think Christian may have struggled and dragged Jungle Boy to a slightly higher level. But let's just be done. Let's move on.
Yeah. What do you think, Krill? Is Jungle Boy a badass now? Is he the next Stone Cold?
Yeah, far from being Stone Cold Steve Austin. If anybody's Stone Cold, it's John fucking Moxley. But
Right.
in my mind, I don't want to see Christian go because what is he going to do in WWE? All he's just going to do is he's going to be Edge's sidekick. He'll be the guy that people will attack, to have heel heat for them, going off in a feud with Edge. That's what the hell he was going to be had he stayed in WWE in 2021 and feuded with Orton. Because he was doing that dumb feud with Orton at one point. And it was just entirely fucking stupid. So, yeah. Now, into a segue about Death, here we go with House of Black versus Elite for the World Trios title. Guys, what did you think? I thought it was a fantastic match.
I fast forwarded this one. I just there's not enough talent in the ring, so I'll let you guys run with this one.
Okay, I'll take that bait because I know you're a huge Elite Mark fan.
Exactly. That's why he doesn't want to comment on it because
I
they lost.
know you're a fan, so don't even kid me. The fact is, this was 3 of the best wrestlers on the roster against one of the best trios on the roster with less than a week's build, and it still turned out to be one fantastic storyline of a match. The basis of it was, could they get Brody King hurt? Because it took all 3 of them to get him down to a knee. It took move after move after move to get him, down or out of the ring or this, that, the other. It was fantastic. I loved this match. I, of course, am a huge House of Black fan. I'm also a fan of the Elite because I knew they were going to put on a stellar match no matter what. Now, the fact is, I am super, super, super happy that they don't have the trios match or titles anymore, because now the Young Bucks get to go back to the tag division, bring some luster back to that division, or maybe have a different sort of program. Don't know, but Kenny back to singles, back to some programs where he can be a kingmaker, where he and Danielson can have some of the best matches with MJF, where he can match off with some of the top-tier talent, and maybe we can have some entertaining matches again, with or without CM Punk. So, I'm super glad. I love this match. The outcome is the best. I mean, let's not go play bullet point by bullet point. There were moves, there were triple teams, there were double teams, there were dives, there was power, there was brutality. How could you not love this match? Kenny Omega started the match against Buddy Matthews. I know, Jay, you were praying for that matchup. What'd you think of the match?
You said not to go bullet point by bullet point, so I guess I'll just hide my PowerPoint where I have 47 different talking points I wanted to run through about this match.
Only 47 you held back.
Each of which has a story behind it that each has 5 or 6 other points.
And connected to Okada somehow.
All right, Andrew.
No. The problem is that Jay's actually all make sense. Even though they all connect to Japan somehow, they at least legitimately make sense and are in the right time. They're not like time travel.
I will call out 3 spots from that match.
Okay.
The Malachi Black kick right to Kenny Omega that caused him to do a split. That was fucking phenomenal. The fact that he hit him so hard, Kenny did his fucking splits. And then the the V trigger. I don't know why I said B. The V trigger to Julia Blackheart. Not Julia Hart. It's Julia Blackheart now, guys.
You don't even know who she is. She had a mask on and fingernails that looked like Freddy Krueger.
Could have been anybody, honestly.
It could have been.
was
I think it was MJF.
I could tell from that like see-through black skirt she had on over like the thong. I could tell who it was from that.
Alexa Bliss?
No, Julia Hart.
Carmella?
Where's
Anyway,
Phony to
and
tell us
then-
the Sky Blue story? Anyways, Krill.
All right, and then it was the knee. The knee to Jay, not Jay. I don't know why I just said Jay, but I'm messing up here tonight, guys, so...
I want to knee Jay sometimes. No, anyways.
We all stutter and stammer.
All right, so the knee to Nick Jackson as he was diving off the ropes, as he did his little spin
Yeah.
to set in the Meltzer driver, that was just fucking sick.
Yep.
That was
like,
beautiful.
Oh my god! I was like, holy crap! What the fuck? And again, also to call out too, the House of Black's attire, just fucking badass. Jazzwares, if
Oh,
you're listening
God.
to this, please, for the love of God, make a
Oh,
fucking
yes.
4-pack with all 4 of them dressed like that.
I
That
instantly-
would sell out completely.
I instantly knew they were going to win the second I saw they all had gold. That's a key for wrestlers. If they're wearing gold, they're winning a title.
It's also the Elite's colors.
Well, they weren't
So-
wearing gold though. They were doing they had a bunch of different patterns and stuff. Kenny came out in his blue wizard robes or whatever. It just,
Right, whatever the fuck
They
that was.
they weren't wearing
What do you
gold.
think of
House of
Sandra
Black
from-
had black
Demon
and
Slayer?
gold. They were
Yep.
winning. What was that, Krill?
I said it made me think of this anime that my friends have gotten me into watching, which I know a lot of our anime-based fans would probably be like, "Oh my god, he knows." He's mentioning it, Demon Slayer, because at one point the main character in that show, Tanjiro, does have on a blue robe, and it doesn't have the exact designs, but it kind of made me think about this, like, huh? I guess
It's
maybe
it's
Demon
Kenny
Slayer
Omega. It probably is that anime you're
Yeah.
thinking of.
To me, it
Exactly,
looked
'cause he is a Japanese
exactly.
man.
To me, it looked exactly like the white mage robe from
See,
Final Fantasy.
I saw people talk about
Classic
that.
White mage,
been
but it
both.
was blue instead of red. White mage typically wears red and
Well,
white.
that's Red Mage. White Mage wears white. Red
no,
Mage
no,
wears
no,
red.
no, 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 no.
Oh, I
No.
know who you're talking about.
So white mage has a mostly white robe with the red triangle trim on it.
Yeah.
It's red and white. It's a red mage is basically all red,
Yeah.
red and black. So my notes on the match.
Red Mage is my spirit animal, by the way.
Yeah, well, we can talk about red mages some other time. don't want to run down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
I
can do
played a lot
another
of Final
podcast about that.
Fantasy. I played a lot of Final Fantasy 11, so I'm pretty familiar with red mages in that game.
I don't even want to talk about defeating 7.
Oh, 7?
Final Fantasy 7, yeah.
Okay, all right, back to the match. Brody King, I thought, like, he looked so fucking badass
Yeah.
with that face paint. I had,
He
like,
did.
it was incredible. I like that. It was like the coolest fucking look. Like, I think I may have ever seen with face paint in wrestling, period. It was so badass, and he was
Even
so
better than
badass
his
in
coffin
this match. too.
match one. Even better than his coffin match look.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of the coolest looks. Like it really jumped out to me. Like, oh my god, that guy looks so freaking badass. with that face
Menacing.
paint.
He looked menacing.
So I was watching the show with my buddy, who I've been meaning to get to sign up on the Discord. I go to a lot of the wrestling shows with him. We travel for the shows and shit. He's not a big internet guy though. He doesn't like do a ton of internet stuff. But I was telling him, I'm like, all I want to see in this 6-man is I want the Elite to lose because they need to fucking move on. At the beginning of this whole thing, when they announced the best of 7, I was like, it's a bad idea from a ratings standpoint. I don't think it's going to be successful. For an Elite mark standpoint, we fucking love the best of 7 series.
Yep.
Like, Bryan Alvarez loved the best of 7. Like, Meltzer, lots of people loved it. But the general audience didn't. The casual fans didn't really embrace it, and the ratings tended to go down during those matches, just like I said they would. I did not think it was a good idea. I loved it. It was the greatest best of 7 series ever. And at some point, I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch all 7 of those matches in a row for the 2.5 hours or whatever it takes, and it's going to be incredible. But I just didn't think creatively and from a promotional standpoint that was the best approach to using these guys. So I'm glad the Elite lost so they can move out of the trios picture. And like you guys said earlier, Kenny can go into singles and the Bucks can get back into the tag team picture. That's where those three guys are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be stuck in trios matches every fucking week that people turn off because they're not interested in trios matches. I love, and it, like once a month is perfect for a trios match with Kenny and the Bucks. I love watching Kenny and the Bucks in trios match. They're always super entertaining, and they can make stars in those matches, like what they did for what's his name, Top Flight,
AR
Dante
Fox
Martin.
and Dante
AR
Martin.
Fox.
Yep.
Dante Martin, like back in the day, I'm talking like 2 years ago during the pandemic, like Dante Martin almost went over Kenny in that trios match.
Yeah.
And like the crowd the crowd went crazy, everyone went crazy. So I'll move on to my second point, which was, I'm trying to remember what it was now. Oh, come on.
Crashing the entire show to a halt, grinding to a halt.
Yep.
No,
We're gonna be waiting here until 2025.
I know. I got my second point, and then I'll say like a couple more things and move on. So 2 minutes. Start the timer. So I was telling my buddy that what I wanted to see in this match was I wanted to see Kenny and Buddy Matthews square off. I wanted to see them face to face, and I wanted to see the crowd cheering for them to lock up. Because like I've said in the previous podcast, like Buddy steals Kenny's moves and this, that, and the other thing.
Mhm.
But when the match started with those two squaring off, I was like, yes. I'm like, that was the exact fucking start I wanted for the match. It was awesome. And those two went at it. Like, those are two guys that could have a fucking 5-star match any day of the fucking week. But Tony Khan won't book the match. Why is he not using fucking House of Black? Why is he not letting a guy like Buddy Matthews wrestle to his potential? And why do we have Kenny buried in fucking trios matches for 6 months when he's busting out 6.5-star matches in the Tokyo Dome, drawing 20,000 people, probably more, went to that show for that Kenny Osprey match. So it's just really frustrating to me. I don't know. Tony thinks it's fucking salary arbitration, and when Kenny's deal is up in 6 months, he's gonna be like, "Well, Kenny, your trios matches didn't draw," and Kenny's gonna be like, "Fuck you. That's because you fucking booked this like garbage, and I should be fighting in singles matches and headlining shows because I'm a fucking draw." And so Kenny's gonna say, "No, I can't give you this contract," and that's why Kenny's gonna go to WWE. That's what I think is gonna happen. So
No. If they go to WWE, they're gonna be bloodline bait. That's the whole point. That's the only reason why Vince McMahon and them would even want them, is just so they can go, "Oh yeah, hey, you know what? You guys were the top stars in your own promotion. You couldn't even fucking beat the bloodline." That's like another reason why I think Cody will lose at Mania.
right.
Because of that exact reason.
Vince would not kill his golden goose in Roman Reigns, but he would definitely see the value of Kenny, and he would be able to utilize it. Now, we know Vince is still in control in the background, but at least 80% is currently Triple H.
Vince is actually at Raw tonight, so.
Yeah, gotta have the ball.
So maybe 20% is still Triple H, so we could hope. Good God Almighty, I did not need to know that Vince is back at Raw. Jesus.
Well, people are saying he's just there because Cena was there, but
Yeah.
He's not going to be involved in any sort of creative. Oh wait, Omos versus Lesnar was
apparently
pushed.
Lesnar is actually approved of that idea.
Yeah, but Vince is the one who pushed it through.
Austin
Yeah,
Theory
exactly.
replaces Cody in the main event to fight Roman for a golden egg match.
Yeah, that'll happen.
All right, I will make one more point on the 6-man before we move on to the triple threat women's match. Jay, from what I have read, apparently, according to Kenny Omega, he said he wanted to do something different in the trios division. Was something different. He's like, you know what? Hey, there's this new thing.
Yeah.
Why not be a part of it? So there is that one. And
Yep.
I do believe that Tony Khan will be busting his fucking ass, throwing out as much money as he possibly can to keep the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in AEW, because he did say, I hope that Kenny Omega stays. Now, on to the best match of the night. Jamie Hayter versus Saraya versus Ruby Soho.
Hey, before we move on, just let me retort to that, and then one more comment. The "You Can't Escape" that Kenny did, the rolling fireman carry on Brody King, was awesome. And I would love for the feud with the Elite and House of Black to be extended. I would love to see singles matches between Kenny and Malachi Black would be incredible. I mean, Kenny versus any of those guys would be incredible.
Yep.
And even like, the Bucks tagging against two of them. I mean, there could be some awesome shit here. Like this feud, like if Tony decided to give them like 20 minutes a week and just let those guys creatively work it out, it would be incredible television. But I don't think we're going to get that. Fucking, for some reason, House of Black isn't allowed to fucking fight on TV, and the Elite is fucking neutered right now. They're just an afterthought, other than the trios stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully Tony gives them more time.
Well, they are champions now. They are champions now, so House of Black has the chance of being on TV more. Now, I have not seen Tony do take the tag team and do the singles match, or take the trios team and do tag and singles match to build up to a pay-per-view. That's something that he has not been doing. And that's a staple of WWE programming. I think it might be a good idea if they decided to incorporate that, especially for the trios. Yes, have a trios match every couple of weeks, every 3 weeks, month. But during the time, build up the feud by having tag matches with them, with one of the guys outside, or having singles matches with the other two people outside, and let them interact that way, and have a match, and have Kenny versus Brody, have Matt versus Malachi, whatever it is, and let them mix it up. And then when you get to the trios match, you'll be salivating over it. But he didn't do that.
With you wholeheartedly.
He had a weird build-up where it was 1 day and a half before the match, and then they actually did it. So I don't know what is going on in Tony's head with the booking. I said it in the chat the other day. I think he's starting to get stretched a little thin. I think he's starting to really not be as flexible as necessary and be wholehearted. The one thing I can give Vince credit for, he did not try to run 4 companies at the same goddamn time. He ran one, and he put his heart and his soul into it. Because
I killed off everyone else, so.
Well, I mean, at the expense of everybody. But the fact is, we need to acknowledge that people like Tony Khan and people like Elon Musk and some of these other high-end CEO, C-level executives, if you can do 4 of those jobs at the same goddamn time, they're not that fucking challenging. Right. Tony needs to quit doing the other shit and put all of it into AEW.
Yep.
And if he did that, and he settled down, and he actually started concentrating and started putting, maybe get a little bit of some input from some of these other people, because we need to break things up a little bit, because he's good, he's got great matches, the pay-per-views get there, but they could be doing so much better. And with that said, let's move on.
All right, so Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho versus Saraya for the AEW Women's World Title match. Guys, what do you think about it? What was the actual basis of it? I mean, we already know it's the whole outsider versus insider thing, but how did you guys feel about the entire match? Because I wasn't really a big fan of it.
So you got the AEW originals in there. Jamie Hayter is apparently a AEW original versus Saraya and Ruby, who came there like halfway. Saraya's the new girl. Hayter got the predictable win. Soho teased joining the originals and then turned on Hayter and Britt. So the feud continues. What would have been amazing that would really spice things up if Sasha's music had hit and Mercedes came running out. But I'm not sure she's ever going to show up in AEW. So,
well, she only had a few appearances for New Japan.
Yeah.
So
right, but the thought is that she has no interest in working for AEW. She's just trying to get some experience outside WWE without going to the Enemy, and she thinks that's going to up her stock. She thinks because she's successful in Japan that they're going to start treating her like Cody or something. I don't know.
That's the way they used to do it back in the day, so it wouldn't surprise me because that is legitimately what Cody did, because that's how they did it back in the day. You go to Japan, you get a big name, you come back. Lord Tensai, perfect example. Vince actually thought because he was over in Japan, he could get over in the U.S. And so that's...
It didn't work.
Well, no, it didn't for Tensai because he had no charisma. But that's the path. How many times do I remember in the 80s people saying things like, oh, he just came back from a tour in Japan, even though he was in WCW. Or, he was doing a European tour. Those types of things are how they built up the entire idea of leaving and coming back and being a bigger, better name. And I think if that's what Mercedes doing, okay, that's going to work. What are you thinking, Krill?
Well, Mercedes Moné, I'm a fan of her, but in all honesty, she's tried it with WWE so many times, and I will say this. Mercedes, I'm a big fan, but don't go back. You're not... It doesn't matter if you build your stock up like how Cody Rhodes did. Unless you are like Cody Rhodes, and I guarantee you, and I still say this, I'm pretty fucking sure Cody has it written into his contract that I must win this or I'm going to leave. I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to go back to my company, AEW.
Well,
this is me.
In the day, they used to write in title runs, and you could always tell because they were the shittiest title runs you've ever fucking seen.
Cody's might end up being shitty if he does win at Mania, so...
Things like they would put it on him, and then they would just be humiliated, like FTR's title run. Or Chris Jericho, his first unified title run, where he was playing Triple H's bitch the entire time. I do
remember hearing... Mm-hmm. Sorry, continue.
I was just going to say, those are the types of contractual runs that you end up seeing that go nowhere. Because they are contractual. Vince never got behind him. And so he's like, okay, I'll put the belt on you, but you're going to be covered in dog shit. So, were you going to...
With that one, Jericho's covered, and I think I've probably said this like 1,000 times. Jericho's like, I heard it. How I figured out was, I'm sitting here fucking carrying like a few hours before the show, and he's talking to Taker right next to me, and he says as loud as he can so I can hear it. Hey, Taker, you want to know how business is going down the toilet? Oh, Vince. Are part of the fucking title on Jericho.
Yeah.
Ugh. He treated Jericho like shit. Jericho had a big debut, and then Jericho gets shitted on for the title. And he's even like, I pitched this idea to Triple H. He's like, hey, Stephanie's with me. How about we pitch this that, I'm fucking her? And he's like, no, I wouldn't buy that. I wouldn't be that dumb. It's like, actually doing it, you idiot. That's exactly what Jericho's saying. It's like, I'm not actually sleeping with your wife, you idiot. Dude, it made more sense because she's with me every week. That would make a lot more sense than her just being, I'm pussy whipped. It's like, that would make more sense why I like that, is if I was actually having sex with her. Not just, like, oh yeah, hey, I'm a sub here. I'm not going to do anything. I'm scared of her. I'm just going to cower in fear.
It was, part of that was Triple H's ego. That's why he could never allow, like, Kurt Angle. There was supposed to be a part where he and Stephanie were supposed to do something. He's like, nope, not believable. And
because in his mind, nobody else but him can get Stephanie.
Well, I mean, except for Macho, but still, the entire concept was submarined because Triple H didn't want it. So he's always had that backstage influence. That's why he's the booker man. So. Yep,
because he married into it, and now he's running the whole damn place.
But as far as the women on this program that we're talking about, AEW, goes, I thought it was a good match. I thought that Jamie Hayter came out, again, looking really stellar. I loved the final post-match sequence where Ruby finally made a goddamn decision. Because at the start, it looked like she was going to join up with we're going to call them the originals, because Jamie Hayter apparently never worked anywhere except for AEW. And then she turned on them and joined what they're calling the Outsiders, except they can't call them the Outsiders. So I don't know what they're going to call them. But I think Mercenaries, the Mercenaries would be a great name. But
wasn't that actually a faction name in WWE or just a tag team name?
The Mercenaries? I don't remember.
Let's see, the
I remember the No Limit Soldiers in WCW. I remember the Party Animals in WCW.
Okay, there is a wrestler
You
named the
remember-
Mercenary, and apparently his finisher is called the Finisher. Just
Do you remember the New Breed in NWA, Cosmic Scott?
The New Breed. No, I wasn't
They
an
used to come out
NWA
to-
guy.
They used to come out to the Beastie Boys. You got to fight for the right to party. They did all these crazy moves.
Huh.
Short-lived. They probably only had a 3-month run, but
and here is the Mercenary.
Apparently,
Hang on, let me.
Johnny Rock has already posted it in the chat. A tag team called The Mercenaries.
Yeah, it looks like a custom for a video game, but
It does.
this is a picture of an actual wrestler named the Mercenary. Just he looks like a Danhausen ripoff.
He does look like Brother Voodoo had a midget child.
I think this dude was actually fighting in Nashville. I was in Nashville earlier this week, and I was hoping to be able to go to the Saturday night show. They had a wrestling show with some small promotion, and this guy was on the fucking poster.
He wasn't your valet?
That's probably what he does when he's done fighting.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. He probably turned around and took your car before he got into his gear, so you won't recognize him unless you go, it's the eyes. I can recognize him by the eyes.
But I thought the women's match was actually rather good. I know that Saraya was carried by two excellent wrestlers in Ruby and Jamie Hayter.
And Saraya did make a reference to, Soho's whole thing, which was kind of, why? Why the hell is that even happening? Where she said it, go. So, and I think Soho does have a reason for joining with them, because remember, when she first came in, her first opponent was Britt Baker. That's going to be a common theme. Anybody that's, that was from WWE that came in was feuding with Britt Baker. So if Athena wasn't, ROH Women's Champion, she'd be siding with them because she's like, well, you started shit with me. That's why Tony Storm's against her. It makes sense. There's your angle right there. Saraya, these people came in. Britt Baker had an issue with them, and they started feuding with her right away. So there's her hook.
Technically, there's always a storyline reason you can make up. That's the whole great thing about making new storylines. Yep. But the fact that Ruby there was a little bit of a will she, won't she coming into the match. Jamie Hayter ended up getting the win, so of course she keeps the title, which I love to see. And then they have the advancement of the storyline with the mercenary outsider forces, the special forces doggy style, call it what you will. I like it. I like where it's going. I hope that Ruby can be more of a leader than Saraya, because back in the day there was the Riot Squad, but there was also Saraya's whatever group. So I'm hoping that this can elevate this entire storyline, because this is the top of the women's roster going at it. So I'm hoping that this is actually going to go somewhere. And if it does bring in Monet, great. If it doesn't bring in Monet, great. If Sasha Banks, if Mercedes just wants to elevate her stock and do more Hollywood, good on her. I loved her in The Mandalorian. If she wants to try to elevate her stock, go back to WWE like classic style, good on her. Whatever. If she wants to go to AEW, make a statement, I'd love to see her there too. But
well, would.
This is the best that the women have. It was entertaining. Since there's only one women's match on the pay-per-view, only one allowed. There was no Jade Cargill. She has nothing going on. I guess she's in a holding pattern until Statlander comes back, whenever that is. Can't have another feud, but I don't know. I'm still upset that there's really limited exposure for the women's division. Otherwise, it was a good match. I liked it. There was storyline progression, and the match itself was fine.
All right.
Great.
So,
And,
hey, do you have any piece on this, or should we go ahead and move on to the death match?
Yeah, speaking of progression, let's talk about the second highest rated match on the show, which was a 9.4, which is some upper level serious territory. Jon Moxley against Hangman Adam Page. The death match we had all been hoping for. Did it live up to the expectations and the hype?
I believe it did because Hangman Page, he stepped out of his comfort zone. You know, we're so used to seeing Hangman Page in regular matches. He talks about, hey, I'm the cowboy. And he got to prove it last night. He went as hardcore as he fucking possibly could with Moxley. He matched Moxley blow for blow with all that insane shit. He wrapped barbed wire around himself and then did the Arahari moonsault, which I thought was a great spot. But Moxley bled a lot more than he did because, and I even heard, I think it might have been Taz or Excalibur, one of them had made a reference to, everybody's joke that Moxley bleeds over everything. And he said, oh, the wind would bust Moxley open. Cosmic?
I thought the finish was incredible. The buckshot lariat into another lariat, into the Mox getting choked out by the chain. This was Mox's first tap out in AEW. I was not sure on this match at all. I would not have been surprised at all if Moxley won. I was almost more surprised that Hangman won, especially in the manner that he did, because Mox generally doesn't put guys over. He's only lost to a couple guys, and most of his losses are not clean. So, yeah, just an outstanding match. Possibly, I guess I won't say I'll say one of the best death matches I've seen. I don't know if I liked it as much as the Kenny Mox death match or the Lights Out match from one of the early pay-per-views. But I thought it was excellent, and I'm super excited that Hangman is getting a push here. And I'm curious if Hangman's going to go after MJF, or if he's going to end up battling Starks to get that next title shot. And I wonder if Moxley's finally going to get his vacation. So those are my thoughts on the match.
All right, let me start with the end. That spot at the final where Jon Moxley was being hung literally over the ropes with the barbed wire. He was holding on to it. He had to tap. That apparently is a callback to the entire way Hangman got his name. Was that spot? Was the Hangman spot? So, was I happy to see that? Hell yeah. Was this a brutal, bloody match that involved Jon Moxley taking a fork and jamming it into Page's forehead until blood splurted out? Yes, it was.
There was a lot of splattered blood there. Abdullah would have been proud. Actually, Abdullah's still around, so he probably is proud.
If he
could also be proud about MJF as well.
The entire... I mean, first of all, it was a Moxley match, so of course he was going to bleed. There was a couple of girls there with a sign that said, I want to taste Moxley's blood. And I'm like,
oh, fuck?
That's kind of odd, but okay. Because, they were front row. They knew he was going to bleed. So at one point I expected him to sort of fling it at him. But once again, I said it before, these are two fucking alpha male men bastards going at it. Tong and hammer, tooth and nail, rock and fist. Call it what you will. These dudes, what was that, Jay? I see you trying to talk.
Oh, I'm just picking up some interference or something.
Oh, all right. They went at it, just clubbing the holy crap out of each other with as many violent moves as they could think of. This was a fantastic match. If there was a Kingmaker match for Hangman, this might be it. I don't know if he's going to get over necessarily from one match alone. He's had several years and has just got this massive buildup. Love the music that he came out. The music that they used, which was Riders in the Sky. I love that song. I think it was the best choice. Everybody got some great music. All the big names got great music coming out. And
so what is that song, Scott?
It was Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Okay.
It's by the Outlaws.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs.
When did that come out?
Oh, I don't know, 70s?
70s? Nice.
Maybe not by the Outlaws, but the original one. Let me, I'll look it up if you're really...
Sure, I just thought you might know. Yeah, I like the new song. I was never a big fan of Hangman's old song. I just thought it was, I don't know, just some guy with his synthesizer whipped it up in like 2 minutes. I was just never a big fan of it.
Hey, Don't take a shot at Mikey Ruckus. He's produced some really good songs. Don't take a shot at him, man.
So the original was 1961 Neil Levang.
Okay.
There's been a bunch of remakes. That's all I'm going to say. The ones last night was The Outlaws, but it's just a different rendition of the same song, and I love it. Hell, I even like the one in one of the Need for Speeds, which was remade by a rapper. I don't remember which one. Rock, if you remember which who remade it, tell me. We played the hell out of that game. But the fact is, Hangman had a great new music. I hope they keep it. And it was a fantastic match. I loved it. Hangman proved he's a brutal wrestler and is on par with Moxley. What did you think of it, Jay?
It was outstanding. As I said, I thought it was excellent. It was one of the best death matches I've seen. It wasn't the goriest death match I've seen. I'm glad that it wasn't. They used barbed wire that's been shaved down, so it's not tearing them to shreds. So, I thought it was excellent. I'm excited to see where Hangman goes from here. And I'm also wondering if Mox is going to take his vacation now.
Right, I forgot. Krill, did you get to talk about this match? Have you gone at length about this match yet?
I've said a little bit, but I did mention about, the whole Aura Hori Moonsault spot. That was fantastic, but I have not gone in the length about it. And I did look it up because I'm reading about the Ghost Riders in the Sky song, and as it turns out, actor Stan Jones is the one that wrote the original song in 1948. It's called Ghost Riders in the Sky, a cowboy legend, and it's a cowboy-styled country western song written in 1948 by American songwriter, film, and television actor Stan Jones.
Huh.
And according to him, he said he had been told a story when he was 12 years old by an old Native American who resided northeast of the Douglas, Arizona border town a few miles behind D Hill, north of Agua Prieta, Sonora. The Native Americans, possibly Apache, who lived within... I'm not going to get into the rest of this, but... They believe that when souls vacated their physical bodies, they reside as spirits in the sky resembling ghost riders. So it's actually a very interesting... song for this. Like a very interesting background on that song. It's been redone many times, but the one that was done last night was by the band The Outlaws.
Mm-hmm.
So, on to the match itself. It was as hardcore as you would expect. It was as brutal, as bloody. It's differentiating from the other death matches that we've seen. And honestly, it was the best one that I've seen in AEW that Moxley's been a part of, and the one that the two that Hangman Page did with Adam Cole and Lance Archer last year. I wasn't a fan of those. I really will say I was not a fan of those because it's kind of like by the numbers, honestly, in my mind. It was by the numbers. It wasn't really, that good. Nothing against Lance Archer or Adam Cole. It's just it didn't work with them because you need an actual hardcore-based guy to do all this. A guy that does death matches. And Moxley is a fucking death match king.
He
alongside,
is.
Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, Sabu, Terry Funk, guys like that. He's up there with them because he's just so fucking crazy. I mean, we're talking about the man that literally sewed his own fucking nipple back on in the middle of a match in Germany. So,
if you have to sew a body part on, you're a legend.
Exactly.
So the fact is, it was brutal. Body parts. I mean, he left part of his hair in one of the spots where he charged and hit his head on the chair covered in barbed wire. Was it barbed wire? Yes, of course it was. Otherwise, all of their flesh would have been torn and ripped off.
Yeah, the only person that will ever actually use unshaven barbed wire is Mick Foley, and he's too out of it to even be able to wrestle ever again. As much it would be fun to see him against Darby Allin, because holy fucking shit, could you imagine him against Darby Allin in the death match? Him against Moxley, him against Hangman.
If you're talking 30, 40-year-old Mick Foley in the height of his popularity during his Hell in a Cell run, fuck yes, I'd love to see him versus Darby.
Yeah, that would be insane because him and Darby would be going on and on and on and on.
It'd be like him versus Funk. It's a classic match where they both know there's no limit and that the other person is willing to do it. So that's a fantasy match that I'd love to see. It's just not going to happen.
Same here. Well, as I was going to say, I mean, we saw spots with bricks. Like, it's rare to actually see bricks inside, a real, a big promotion. You don't see bricks that often. And even if you do, they shatter immediately. They're the concrete kind. Yeah, they're the concrete kind. That's what I meant to say. The cement, not concrete. I'm fucking up here tonight, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, folks. I'm fucking up. I'm having a lot of brain farts tonight. So, it wasn't, it wasn't cement. It was just actual brick, and then Hangman Page, his hand gets crushed. Which, by the way, Hangman didn't sell that part where, he got his hand crushed between the two bricks. Moxley turned around and stepped on it, crushed it. He didn't sell that. He does use his hand at one point to hit Moxley in the face. I'm like, didn't you just get your hand crushed like a second ago by him?
He didn't sell the spot as well as I thought, but then again, the match did involve bricks. I mean, they got to be safe. They got to work it, so.
Yeah, but you should also sell the spot when someone is crushing your hand and your hand's been squashed between two bricks. You should actually make it to where, hey, I can't use this hand, or at least when you hit somebody with the hand, you react to go, oh, fuck, I hurt myself. Hangman didn't do that, so I will discredit him on that one. But they did a lot of crazy shit. The steel chair spot, that chair got completely fucking shattered, and that thing was just, and I'm reading this on AEW's Twitter, it got disfigured. It really did. They broke that damn thing.
The way they had it set up, I thought he was going to take the spot, but in the point of the two chairs.
Yeah, the Joey Janela spot on the actual tops of the chairs.
I'm glad they didn't.
I was not wanting to see that. I hate that spot. I don't know how these guys do it without breaking their spines.
Because their spines are going to get fucking broken. No, thank you. I'm so glad that they went for just the chair, the seat.
Right, because that's easy to, destroy.
Yeah, the seat will fold really quickly. There's a reason metal chairs are used is because they can be worked really safe. But,
exactly.
Oh, yeah, no, there were some spots that were just...
But with Janela, I know Jay and I have had many conversations about Joey Janela in the past. Janela is, in my mind, he's another deathmatch guy, but he's just, that's pretty much all Janela can really do to me. I've seen him in some matches, he's messed up a leg a little bit. He messed up Eddie Kingston's eye, almost ruined his match with Jericho last year. He busted open Hangman 2 years back where the back of his head was just bleeding. So, he has had his moments, but he's a good wrestler, in his case. I'm not a fan of Joey Janela. I haven't been in a long time because I'm like, okay, I thought this guy was good. Only the deathmatch circumstances that I saw him in. Otherwise, I was like, what has he been doing in AEW? But Joey Janela, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I know you'll probably turn around and tweet out and go, hey, guys, get a load of this little fuck. But,
you know what? If Joey Janela called you out on Twitter, that'd be fine. The fact is, I know he's listening because he's too jealous of our success.
Exactly. All right.
That being said...
The final spot of the match, before we move on, the final spot of the match. Yes, right. Moxley tapped out. That's a big indication. Moxley tapping out. You don't see him do that much. You usually see him pass the fuck out. But that right there, that put Hangman over. But at the same time, too, my dad and I were talking about it. He's like, I think Mox actually got hung there. Because his hands were down at his sides. They weren't, right on the chain, so he's holding onto it. So he's actually safe. But Mox's hands were at his side. So is it possible that Hangman might have, accidentally went too far and he actually choked him? And that's why Mox tapped out as fast as he could, because he was tapping pretty quickly.
No, when Moxley wrapped it around himself, he made sure that he was ready for the spot. So it was planned, and if he didn't get his hands up and under, the way they teach you to prevent yourself from being choked to death, he did that on purpose, and he tapped out that quick on purpose. Guaranteed. Mox doesn't fuck up things like that. He takes it if he takes it.
Yeah, I'd like to know when the last time Mox actually tapped out. I mean, he never has tapped out in AEW, and I'm wondering when the last time he submitted in WWE. I was looking before the podcast to see if I could find that, and I couldn't. So let's move on to the next match.
One second. One comment about the BCC. The hardcore combat veterans, the best of the best, these dojo-trained masters, all three of them tapped out.
Who did Claudio tap out to?
Well, I believe there was a match recently. I know Yuta did. And I know... No, I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double-check it. I'm going to double-check it, but at least two of them just tapped out this last weekend.
Okay. Yeah, Yuta may have, but I don't recall Claudia. It doesn't mean he hasn't. I could have missed it. So
Same.
all right.
All right. So Wardlow
Wardlow.
versus Samoa Joe.
Yep.
right.
So this one was. I think it was real difficult to decide the winner of this one. So last week we talked about how Wardlow, with his father dying, was showing a new side of his character. His attachment to his dad, who had passed, and then with Joe cutting the hair. So, it was the other thing that's going on right now that has huge implications for this match is Hobbs. So Hobbs won the Face of the Revolution match. Hobbs is getting the winner of the match on Dynamite, and Hobbs has been getting a big push with all these different segments they're showing of him. They're kind of booking him as the next unstoppable guy. So the thought from a lot of people was, well, Joe's going to win, and then Joe's going to drop it to Hobbs, because why would Wardlow win it, and then is Wardlow going to beat Hobbs? So I think it's interesting who's going to win next week. Are there going to be shenanigans? Is Wardlow going to lay down for Hobbs, and are we going to be hot potatoing with the TNT title again, which I hate? As for the match itself, it was the lowest rated match on the show. The problem this match had was it followed the death match, which just really wasn't fair for these two guys. So what did you guys think?
It was
There
a
was-
classic big man match. Sorry, Scott.
I was just going to say, there's no way you can follow that death match and have a great match. This was just a standard Hoss match. Nothing clunky about it, nothing great about it, nothing bad about it, but nothing to write home about. It was a good Hoss match.
Right.
And Wardlow winning, I think, was a weird choice if Hobbs is going to win, so I don't know what's going on. But good on Wardlow. Him losing didn't really make a lot of sense because of the whole father thing. So he came back. Now they got a babyface versus heel, so maybe that's what they wanted. I'm not sure.
Possibly. But, oh god, I just went out on Twitter, and at WrestleMania, it's going to be, for the U.S. title, John Cena versus Austin Theory. Their way of giving Austin Theory, a big match against John Cena. Like, what the fuck? Just throwing that out there because I just happened to see it. I was like, oh, what the hell? But
Yeah, Vince isn't back in charge.
Nope.
he's been back in charge for months, man. I don't even think
Austin over Cena.
Well,
Anyhow,
but that's been
Wardlow.
that's been set up for a long time before Vince was
It has.
pulled.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so Wardlow tapping out Samoa Joe to his own submission hold. That is another big one because that's another star made. But again, who wins on Wednesday? Hobbs? Wardlow? Does Joe come out and go, you know what? I want my rematch, so I'm going to be added in. Does that happen?
No,
Do we get
no.
another rematch of the triple threat?
No, not for the TNT. Not for the TNT. What I see happening is Joe interferes, costs Wardlow the title, and then they feud for the ROH title on ROH time.
Fits right in.
That's the only thing that makes sense, is to keep the feud going on somebody else's television for a title in ROH, and then Hobbs gets his big push. I like Wardlow, but I did not like his TNT run. Don't give it to him again.
I don't see Wardlow going to ROH. That would really surprise me. Unless Wardlow hasn't renewed his contract. And I think we've talked about that in previous weeks. If Wardlow's contract's expiring in 6 months and he's not renewing because he wants to test, he wants to play the field, maybe Tony will send him to ROH because he doesn't want him on main programming burying other guys. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. Hobbs versus Wardlow is going to be cool on Wednesday. It's something to look forward to.
Big hosses slapping meat. It's everyone said on social media.
Yeah, big men slapping man meat. But I'll be honest with you. I want Hobbs to win. I want Hobbs to have a title. This new character, the Book of Hobbs, he's coming across great. I'd like to see where he could go with the title run for a little bit. Last time Wardlow didn't work out. I'm not interested in seeing him with another title run. I'd like to see him. I mean, I don't want to see him lose. I'd like to see him have a great character, but Joe interfering is the only way I can see that match coming out where Wardlow doesn't look completely weak.
Yeah, and I also want to say Wardlow didn't have a good title run because Tony didn't book a good title run for him. It's all on Tony. he didn't allow Wardlow to keep the momentum up. Wardlow tried, but when you're fighting nobodies and you have no programs, you're going to lose steam.
Then your name is Jade Cargill.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's sort of the holding pattern. That's sort of the holding pattern TK falls into occasionally.
Right, when people get injured and then he has nobody really of value that he wants to put up against Jade Cargill. I mean, we all thought Nyla Rose might have been the one to beat the streak and that they had one of the most lackluster
I didn't think that.
on Full Gear. And two friends of mine that have never watched wrestling a day in their lives were watching a card and they're like, that match was bad. And it's funny, too, because even with the Saraya match, they said... Sorry, I'm also talking to someone else. I don't know what the hell just happened to my Instagram mode.
You need to concentrate on this podcast, sir. We are professionals.
All right.
No outside influences, sir.
So who would have thought? Anyways. So who would have thought that? And did anyone predict that Mox and Samoa Joe were going to tap back to back? I did not.
I thought they were both going to win their matches because Mox is again the deathmatch king. But
so luckily,
them both losing was a big.
Luckily, I took that bet on DraftKings. I put down $10,000 and won $1 million because I predicted those two submissions back to back. And so,
fantastic! So you're going to start financing the podcast.
Yes, and I'll fly everybody out to Double or Nothing in Vegas for my bachelor party.
Fantastic!
In May.
You don't have to fly me very far.
No. Nope.
As a matter of fact, it takes me. No, I have to go to Vegas to get a flight. So
how far of a drive is it?
About an hour and a half.
Oh, not bad at all.
No, but the airport next to me is not an airport. It's industrial use. Go ahead.
I
was going to say the next closest is literally in Vegas.
In 1 week, I leave for Winnipeg. So I'm going to drive to Toronto and fly to Winnipeg for the Kenny Jericho show in Winnipeg Dynamite on the 15th. Really looking forward to that.
Fantastic.
All right. Now it is time for... you know what? Let me do my Mark Henry impression. Looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event. That was the worst Mark Henry impression ever. All right.
Before we get to that, Krill, I heard that at the hotel before Dynamite last week that Jim Ross saw Johnny Ace at the AEW, the same hotel AEW was at, and Johnny Ace was meeting with like the head of production, some guy I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I heard a little bit about that, and there's zero chance at all that AEW is going to touch that radioactive sexual harassment piece of shit. None.
Yeah, we don't
Zero.
want him to go backstage and looking at the girls going, all right, now if you want to make it in the car, you're going to hop up and down on my little Johnny Ace, okay?
Your little scooter. People power. The whole point that Vince brought him back specifically so he could be fired. So Vince wouldn't have to take any blame for the sexual harassment. It's amazing how manipulative Vince truly is.
Mm-hmm. And yet people still worship the ground he walks on. I've said it before. There's a girl I follow. She's very into politics. She always tweets it out. But complains about Linda McMahon's stances. But then still watches WWE. I'm like, you're still giving her money, you idiot.
When you are a manipulator, it shouldn't surprise anybody that you're manipulating people.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways.
All right.
Tag team match.
Final match to discuss. The
Satnam
match.
Satnam Singh comes out dressed as Danhausen with the full face paint. Choke slams everyone in the entire match and walks out with the tag titles. I don't know what the hell happened, but
I'm pretty sure he chokeslammed Amanda Huber on his way back.
And what was in those hard seltzers that I was drinking? That's not what happened.
All right. So, it was the Guns, the Ass Boys, the two guys who, honestly, why the fuck are they signed? Versus the hottest babyface tag team in AEW and actually in the world at the moment, the Acclaim, versus the two vets with nothing really to do, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and then the comedy act duo of Danhausen and Orange Cassidy, another team that was over the fans. let's discuss. What did you guys think?
Well, first of all, you do not bet against Jeff Jarrett.
Right, that's right. I forgot. He would come out of nowhere. And
Look.
crap him with his guitar.
All I got to say is Satellites Unite, Big Hand Band got ready to play. And Satnam did what Satnam does. He got in there and he chokeslammed. And he did a couple things. And then what happened? He got beat. He got beat down by a Superman punch from the top rope. He got put down, finally. A chink in the armor of the Giant. And that's the only reason that Jeff Jarrett lost. Because Satnam, they cheated. They kicked him in the dick. They cheated. He deserves a win.
Hey, he's not even in the tag match, so of course he's going to get kicked in the dick.
Jeff Jarrett for life.
All right, so the match.
Wait, we're done?
No.
No.
We're not done. Not yet. No.
Damn it, I'm going to say that all the time now and end it instantly. Jeff Jarrett for life. Click.
All right. Let's get through this one. All right, so I'm going to speak on it first since everybody else is in a jokey mood. So this match. No. Please just no. All right, there have been better multi-man tag matches in AEW. This was not one of them. It was. If you like some of the stuff that happened, I mean, of course, Orange Cassidy and Danhausen do their shtick. The fact that Max Cassidy did indeed kick out of Jeff Jarrett's finisher, which that itself is a big deal. And the one that took the pin was the obvious one, Danhausen, the comedy guy who doesn't really do much in the ring aside from, yes, that'll curse you, and all that other stuff. So that one was perfect. And then, of course, we got the ending. Everybody was, predicting, FTR is going to come back, FTR is going to come back. And I was wrong. I will admit that. It's rare when I'm wrong these days, and a lot of you guys have figured that out in the podcast and everywhere else that I've been. It's rare when I'm wrong, but this time I was wrong. FTR did come back. The rumors are stating that they are the one that actually this whole them talking crap about AEW, not talking crap about AEW, but the rare mentions of AEW and just seem like they're displeased, but just part of a whole storyline, and that fits. It does track. So now they're back. They're going to take the tag titles, I'd assume. Dax Harwood's going to stop being upset about, not being at the top of the division. But is it going to be awkward for him to interact with Jack Perry after calling Jack Perry out on his podcast? Most likely. What'd you guys think?
Well, first of all, Jeff Jarrett for life. Second of all, Satellites Unite. Big Hand Band. Tuning up. So here's the thing. It was a good match as far as multi-man tag matches go. It was comedy match, filler, more than anything. There were some fun spots. Yes, absolutely. I enjoyed the interaction between all of them. There were a couple of times I seriously thought there was going to be, I thought Jeff Jarrett had it won. I'm not going to kid you. For a second, I seriously bit going, are you serious? Are you really going to put the titles on Jeff fucking Jarrett? They didn't, but I seriously thought they were going to. Do I mind?
That was a great false finish with Jarrett there. I thought he won. I was like, you got to be shitting me.
Yep.
And I was like, thank God that didn't happen.
Thank God they didn't win. Is amazing when you realize that the Guns keep the title in that result.
And then there was still no fucking reaction for the Guns. That's not a good thing.
No, when the tag team champions get the final pin, and you don't get boos, and you don't get cheers, and you just get crickets, there's a problem. But that problem is that they want the belts on FTR. Now, let's look at the landscape here for a second. You've got a shitty tag team division right now. You've got the worst tag champs that have ever been. The best tag champs that have ever been just lost the trios title and are now available to go after a tag title again. You've also got, we could talk about the Lucha Brothers, but they're doing Mark Briscoe stuff. Let's leave them there. But you've also got FTR, who just came back. Also, one of the best tag teams of all time, who we assume are slotted to win against the Guns. And if they don't, we will fucking riot. But when they win the titles, who do you think they're going to finally get to feud with?
The Young Bucks. I don't know why I just said FTR. We're talking with them again. Brain farts all night long. So.
But you are correct in your roundabout way. FTR versus the Young Bucks. We've been waiting for it. We haven't had it. This is the match that I want to see in 2023. I want to see the Young Bucks.
Twice, so.
What's that?
We have seen it twice. Remember All Out 2020?
Doesn't count.
Full Gear 2020.
Doesn't count. This is the match. This is the one because it's for the title, because it's finally going to resolve the best in the world, all of that.
It'll be tough for them to top their first match. It was so good.
They have phenomenal matches. That's my point. So I just want to see those guys challenge for the title. I want to see all four of those guys for the title and forget the Gun Club. Now, do I think the Acclaimed should be in that conversation? I'd love to see the Acclaimed versus Young Bucks versus FTR. Can they win the title against those guys? Could they keep the title against those guys? I don't think they could. And thus,
another question on my mind. Continue.
I was just going to say, they go after them as over as possible, and they don't win because they're not quite as good. Doesn't hurt the Acclaim. It raises their stock later on when they get another title run. So I see no problems in giving the damn titles to FTR, letting them feud with everybody, because they, much like Danielson, will put on the best match of the night every time they wrestle. Jay, you've got some thoughts. Krill, I know we'll get to you. Jay, what about you?
I wasn't a huge fan of the match. I just felt like going in, you knew that the Guns were going to win. And other than that false finish with the Jarrett, nothing in the match really popped me. The Acclaimed were pretty over. I was kind of wishing that the Acclaimed would win, but it's just not in the cards right now. I thought Danhausen and Orange were a good addition. I like the joke about about Orange that Danhausen made about Orange having room in his bag for a tag title. I thought that was pretty funny. But all in all, FTR coming out, that's huge. It's going to change things up pretty significantly in the tag division, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes from here. And hopefully, the Guns are out of the title picture real quick.
I hope so. I hope they get out. I hope they get out soon, and let them, let them feud with Danhausen, Orange Cassidy. That's a perfect spot. Orange Cassidy's proven that the Atlantic Championship is valuable in his singles title. Let him do a comedy run against the tag title twits.
Yep. Now, to me, if FTR loses to the Young Bucks again, do you think that they'll possibly quit? Because they were very open about their beliefs on that one. They kind of did seem like, we feel as though we were just, we were just brought in here just so we could lose to, the Young Bucks. They were very vocal about that. So if they lose to the Young Bucks, if they do win the tag titles, which we all know they're gonna win, you can't just bring them back in, have them face off the Guns, and have the Guns go, "Ha, we beat you again," because that's just no. If the Guns win, we riot. So the Young Bucks do win a tag title, so they feud with them. Does FTR leave again?
You can't take what they say in public, because they're working people intentionally. They did it just this last time when they're like, "Oh, we're going to take a bunch of time off." No, they're not. They're working. So when you say that they expressed interest, or they were dissatisfied with this, that, the other thing, half of that's a work anymore.
Right.
So it's hard to know exactly how they feel truthfully when they go out and they do stuff like this, take pictures with a WWE logo in the corner, and then clearly re-sign. So, I don't know. I like the match. I'm glad that FTR's back. I just hope that they just beat the Guns and the Guns disappear and we just move on. That's really it. That's long and short of that entire match. There were comedy spots. It was fun. Jeff Jarrett was in it. He should have won.
All right. So is there anything else that we should add about this card? Overall, what was your rating of the entire show?
2.7 and a half.
2.7.5.
And 3/4.
All right, Jay, what was your rating?
So there were 3 classic matches. The Bryan MJF match was, I think, one of the best matches ever. The Mox Hangman match was outstanding, and the Trios match was outstanding as well. You had 3 really solid matches. I was not a huge fan of most of the rest of the card. I mean, it wasn't bad. Some of it was. Most of it was about average. But I'd say those three big matches pushed it up to, like, maybe I would say probably a 7 out of 10. I think All Out from 21 is probably when Daniel Bryan and Adam Cole showed up, and the Bucks and the Lucha Bros had that cage match. That's probably my favorite AEW pay-per-view, and I put that at a 9. So I think I give it a 7. The mid card could have been better on the show to push it up to an 8 or a 9.
I'm in agreement with you on this one because there's a lot of this stuff I was not really a fan of. I mean, again, Saraya had to be carried, and I hate to say that because Saraya at one point was very fantastic.
Yep.
I don't honestly think that when she was out, she was even trying to train. I think she was just like, my career's done. I can't do anything.
She was doing Twitch.
Yeah, she accepted her fate, and then when she finally realized, oh shit, wait a minute, I can come back, she came back without barely any training, and then she's just been still, limping around, just trying so hard to go, oh hey, I'm still at that level I was years ago. Bryan Danielson, he was injured. He had neck problems. He had all these problems with him. And you could definitely tell he had no sign of ring rust when he got back because he was training his fucking ass off because he wasn't going to accept, hey, I'm not able to wrestle. He's like, fuck that. I want to wrestle, and I'll go to ROH. And that's why the heck Vince McMahon let him come back and wrestle. He's like, hey, Cody, if you're still an ROH champion, by this time when my contract expires, I'm coming for you. And that got him back. Danielson, completely trained. You could definitely tell. Saraya, I wish she would get better. I wish she would, start working with other people. I hate to say that one because, again, she's a fantastic wrestler. Was. Anymore? No. Everybody has to carry her, which, again, Tony Khan, if you're listening, please sign Sky Blue because she had to do the job of carrying her. And actually, as a matter of fact, sign anybody has to, that's, an undercard wrestler that's coming in from the indies that has to carry Saraya in a match. Because, goddamn, it's sad that you have to carry a vet to a good match. That really is sad. So, I'm in agreement. It was a 7. There's not that really. The undercard was just, basic. 3 good matches that were phenomenal. Everything else, meh. So, yeah.
I was a big fan of Saraya when she came up through the ranks in WWE. I loved her as Paige. I thought she had a tremendous story. I liked her movie. Her movie was really interesting in seeing, fighting with my family, kind of seeing where she came from and all of that. You're right, though. When she was out for the 5-6 years, she did not train. Danielson, even though he was injured, still trained because he wanted to come back that whole time. He fought to come back that whole time. Saraya accepted it and accepted it and accepted it and found other ways to make money, and she was doing pretty good. But then she saw Edge come back, and then she saw Danielson come back, and then she's like, well, technology's changed. Let's see. And they gave her a clean bill of health, and she was able to come back, which is good. But she definitely did not train. She needed to. And maybe she's putting in the work now, and maybe she'll be better in a year. But right now, she's being carried and hard.
Now, I will say this before we do end the podcast and continue to comment on that. I think that's the worst part, is that Saraya comes from a wrestling family. Her mom and dad, her brother are wrestlers. Danielson, I do believe he's the only one in his entire family, aside from his wife, that is a wrestler. And wouldn't you think that the wrestler, the one that came from the wrestling family, would be just continuously training to continue to stay better, so when they can return from all these injuries, that they look just as good and crisp as they did before they got injured.
You just said it. She never thought she was going to come back.
Yeah, and I don't think Danielson did, but Danielson didn't stop him from continuing to train.
He had nothing. If you ever watched his behind-the-scenes stuff with Total Divas or whatever, when he was first, there was a different injury, and he was in with some sort of, I don't know, business consultant or whatever, and they said, so what skills do you have? He's like, I'm a professional wrestler. He's like, so what have you done? I started the Yes movement. He has nothing but wrestling. And so,
that's the thing.
either way, I'm glad that they're both back. Nobody should be hurt. Nobody should be forced out of the job that they love. Saraya needs some training. She needs some work. Let's just let her.
Danielson, work with her, please, because you are a fucking king in the ring.
He is. By the way,
All right.
if anybody hasn't yet, you can join the Discord by clicking the link down below in the description. You can also find us at EliteMarkOrder.com and click on Join the Discord and join us immediately. For those of you who aren't very technical, if you click the link, it'll download onto your computer or phone for you, and then you can join right into the Discord. Other than that, I think this was a tremendous pay-per-view. I told you my rating was 2 3/4 and a half, 2.5 3/4. 2.75 and 3/4 and a half. So overall, I think it was a great pay-per-view. Once again, it was long, but I think Tony kept it under control. It wasn't as long as some of those previous ones. And every match seemed to have time to breathe.
That's good.
Yeah, I did like that he didn't make it a really long show by adding another half an hour or so. I thought it was a good length, especially considering you had an Iron Man match. It was all around good job on the timing of the show.
Oh, and folks, you can also join us in our favorite topic over here at Elite Mark Order's Discord, bullying Jay and talking about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega.
So if you want to bully Jay, again, go to EliteMarkOrder.com, click on Join the Discord, or you can go to the description down below over on YouTube and click Join the Discord. Gentlemen, I think this is going to be it. We had a fantastic show. Lawyer Scott said that this was appointment listening, so fantastic. I want to thank everybody, Jay, Krill. We didn't get to hear from Toothless Hogan, but he was here in the background. He didn't watch the show, so he didn't have much to say. And Lawyer Scott in the audience, along with everybody else. Just remember, JJ for life.